Hey everyone, welcome back to English Flow. Today, I want to tell you a story about a young student named Daniel. It is a story about education. But more importantly, it is a story about discipline, excuses, and the power of the mind. So listen carefully, because you may see a little bit of yourself in Daniel. Daniel was 19 years old. He was intelligent. He had big dreams. And everyone around him believed he could become successful. But there was one problem. Daniel could not stay disciplined. Every morning, he promised himself, "Today, I will study seriously." But then his phone would ring. One message. One video. One social media notification. And suddenly, 1 hour was gone. Then another. And by evening, Daniel would look at his books and say, "I'll start tomorrow." Tomorrow became Monday. Monday became next week. And next week became next month. Daniel knew exactly what he needed to do. He needed to study. He needed to practice English. He needed to read. He needed to improve his skills. But knowing what to do was not enough. He had a problem that many people have. He was waiting to feel motivated before taking action. And motivation was always late. One morning, Daniel received his exam results. He opened the paper slowly. His heart sank. He had failed. Not because he was stupid, not because the exam was impossible, and not because he had no ability. He failed because he had prepared too late. He had spent months saying, "I still have time." Now, there was no more time. Daniel walked home quietly. He put the result on his desk. Then he looked at his books. For the first time, he didn't blame the teacher. He didn't blame the exam. He didn't blame his friends. He didn't blame his circumstances. He blamed himself. And he asked one simple question. "What is stopping me?" The answer was uncomfortable. It wasn't his intelligence. It wasn't his school. It wasn't his luck. It was his habits. That evening, Daniel went to see his old English teacher, Mr. Anderson. Daniel told him everything. "I want to succeed," he said, "but I don't know why I keep wasting my time." Mr. Anderson smiled. Then he asked, "Daniel, do you think successful students are motivated every day?" Daniel thought for a moment. "No," he said. "Then what makes them successful?" The teacher looked at him and said, "They don't depend on motivation. They depend on discipline." Daniel listened carefully. Mr. Anderson continued, "Motivation says, study when you feel like studying. Discipline says, study because you decided to study." Daniel became silent. Then the teacher said something he would never forget. "Your future is being created by what you do when nobody is watching." The next morning, Daniel made a decision. He didn't create a complicated schedule. He didn't promise to study 10 hours a day. He simply made 3 rules. Rule number 1. Study for 1 hour every morning before touching his phone. Rule number 2. Learn 10 new English words every day. Rule number 3. Never miss 2 days in a row. That was it. Simple, but not easy. On the first morning, Daniel woke up at 7. His phone was beside his bed. He wanted to check it. He thought, just 5 minutes. But then he remembered his teacher's words. Your future is being created by what you do when nobody is watching. So Daniel turned the phone off. He opened his English book, and he started studying. Was he excited? No. Was he motivated? Not really. But he studied anyway. That was his first victory. Not over his exam, not over his classmates, but over himself. The next day was harder. Daniel felt tired. He wanted to sleep longer. His mind whispered, you studied yesterday. Take today off. Daniel almost listened. Then he remembered something important. One missed day can become 2. 2 can become 3. And 3 can become a habit. So he got out of bed. He studied. Again. And again. And again. Slowly, something began to change. Daniel was not becoming smarter overnight. He was becoming more disciplined. And discipline was changing everything. After 2 weeks, Daniel noticed something strange. He was starting to enjoy studying. Not because studying had suddenly become easy, but because he was finally seeing progress. He could understand English sentences that once confused him. He could speak with more confidence. He remembered more vocabulary, and, most importantly, he trusted himself more. Why? Because every day he kept a promise to himself. That creates confidence. Not positive thinking alone. Not motivational videos. Keeping promises to yourself. One afternoon, Daniel's friend asked him, what's your secret? Daniel smiled. There is no secret. His friend laughed. You're studying every day now. You must have some secret. Daniel answered, I stopped asking myself whether I felt like doing it. His friend looked confused. Daniel continued, when I feel motivated, I study. When I don't feel motivated, I study anyway. That sentence changed Daniel's life, because he finally understood something. Your feelings are not always your instructions. You can feel tired and still work. You can feel nervous and still speak. You can feel afraid and still try. You can feel uncomfortable and still grow. Education is not only about filling your mind with information. It is also about training your mind to keep going. Months passed. The final exam arrived. This time, Daniel was different. He didn't walk into the examination room hoping for luck. He walked in prepared. He read the questions carefully. He stayed calm. And he trusted the work he had done. When the results were announced, Daniel passed. But something even more important had happened. He had learned a lesson much bigger than an exam. He had learned how to control his habits. Daniel eventually understood that success was not one giant moment. It was thousands of small decisions. Choosing the book instead of the phone. choosing practice instead of excuses.